In today's Building a Stronger Community, have you ever felt like your child knows more about technology than you do?
More than 100 educators have been in Orono since Monday, learning how to stay ahead of the curve to benefit the next gen of the Maine workforce. Grace Bradley takes us there for more.
I don't want teachers to be scared of the computer science.
Teachers of all grades and subjects came to the University of Maine campus for the free Computer Science Summer of Fun program, gaining skills to use on and offline.
Teachers are actually putting themselves in the role of students, playing with technology, playing and actually doing some unplugged computer science activities and really seeing what's possible out there. So many people think of computer science as learning a particular code or learning a particular programming language. That's not what we're talking about here during this week. We are talking about how to help kids have those key core skills for thinking critically, problem solving, learning how to fail again and again, so that it's not just one particular skill, but that they're learning honestly how to learn.
Just really nice to be around other like-minded educators that can kind of help some of us newer to this area of expertise learn more about it and be able to use it more in our classrooms.
Learning computer science may seem very daunting, but in today's technological world, it's everywhere. This is why events like CS Summer Fun are so critical, as it gives teachers the tools that they need to ensure success in their students.
Computers and the human and computer interactions are part of our world. What we're talking about here is how to help Maine's K-12 educators and their students be better informed and how to really lean into experimentation for how these kids could be interfacing with computers and computer science in their lives.
Opportunities like this are great because it allows you to see that you're already doing some of these practices in your teaching that you just may not associate with the term computer science or computational thinking. And it's really just about framing it in a way that students understand that what they're doing, like in terms of problem solving and other skills, are already part of the computational thinking and computer science model.
Then it makes it easier for when they get into middle school or into high school. They already know these problem-solving skills and communication skills, which is important for life in general.
Grace Bradley, WABI, TV5 News, Orono.